Thank you for joining. Today, our guest is Heather Thorner. She's a longtime educator extraordinaire, I would add. She's been in public school education system for many years. And we are going to talk about education, the journey, and the most important, the vital thing that we can find for our kids today. Thank you for joining us, Heather.
You are very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
So the first question I had, I like to start from the beginning. What was your earliest memory of yourself? Childhood memory.
I mean, I grew up on the East Coast. My parents met and lived in Boston. And so I would say my earliest memories are of snow and just like blizzards, being in our basement, going out and playing in it. Any opportunity. My dad, we had a huge, like a long driveway, and my dad used to freeze over the driveway and we could ice skate on the driveway.
Wow.
So, like, when I think of my childhood, and I moved when I was 10. So, when I think of my childhood, I very much connect it to the snow because I haven't had it since then. So, my childhood is all about the East Coast and snow and just playing in it. And then there's definite summer memories too. Like, I had a favorite ice cream spot that I still to this day love. And so, it's, but snow, and I think that's also probably my love of like winter sports comes from being an East Coast kid and growing up there.
So you mentioned ice cream parlor. What's a favorite ice cream flavor?
So
Place
I am
anywhere.
a Friendly's girl. It's Friendly's ice cream, and it's vanilla ice cream, but they have this peanut butter sauce on it. And this peanut butter sauce, I mean, there's lots of people who make it, but it's how Friendly's does it. And I'm very sad because Friendly's is kind of like Denny's now, and they're slowly closing all of them. So every time I go back east, it's harder and harder to find a Friendly's now because they're not making it like they used to. And the food is, not great, but the ice cream is fantastic. So,
Similar to Dunkin' Donuts versus Krispy Kreme, East
oh
Coast.
yes,
Is
I'm
there
a Dunkin'
anything the
Donuts
West
girl.
Coast that's
Yes,
here?
and it is. I don't like Krispy Kremes. I grew up on Dunkin' Donuts. My grandmother, I used to go and see her in New York. She would, like, my mom was away. I would walk with her to the Dunkin' Donuts by her house. I would get my little chocolate covered glazed and I'd sit with her and her sister. And then we would go over to Price Chopper and we would go do their shopping for the day where they would use all their coupons. And that was my childhood. So I can eat a Krispy Kreme, but I'm like, this is not a donut. Like, and then when Dunkin' Donuts came here, I was so excited. And when they opened the one in downtown Walnut Creek, I don't know if I told you this. So when that one opened, I was so excited. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I took the kids down there for the opening of Dunkin' Donuts because I'm like, this is it. This is my donuts. I've been waiting for these to come back. And there is a picture. If you go to Google and you type in Aiden's name and Dunkin' Donuts, his picture will come up because that opening, I mean, the kids had to wait in line for like 2 hours to get a donut. So by the time I handed him the bag with the donut, he just shoved it in his mouth. Well, there was a photographer there and she just snapped a picture at that exact moment. So now anytime they open a Dunkin' Donuts in this area, it's Aiden's picture when he was 8. He's about
Wow.
to be 18.
Wow.
So this is every year. And so every once in a while, some friend on Facebook will tag me in a post like, Aiden was on for Dunkin' Donuts again. So we are a Dunkin'
Hopefully the
Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts will, the royalty from that, get
You
him
would
through
think
college.
so, but we tagged him on Twitter and they did not seem very interested. So yeah, but he is that is his claim to fame is he is Dunkin' Donuts famous. So for me, yeah, I can't do a Krispy Kreme
It's
because of
so
that.
funny. And I think
Yeah.
the day they opened, I was passing through the store and it was really hot. It was like three digits, I believe. And I remember who in the world, just to put it mildly on camera, said would wait in line for a donut. You answer my question now. That
Yep.
New York, East Coaster would
Very much so.
come from East,
Yeah. That,
incredible.
that that's what we did. And that's, yeah, I mean, it was even at night, at night in the East Coast during the summer, it was you get in the car, you go to the ice cream spot where you can't go sit inside. And there's just benches outside. You walk up, you stand in line, you wait to get your ice cream cone, and then you go and you sit outside with everybody else eating ice cream. Like you'll get that every once in a while on a hot night here if you hit like a cold stone or something, and there'll be people sitting outside. But when I grew up on the East Coast, that's like no, everybody's just sitting outside and you're all talking and you just go up to the window and you come and socialize. And ice cream was like a thing in the summer. And yeah, my kids have different experiences here of things they like to do in the summer because they're California kids. They've only grown up here. So, but mine was very different. I mean, sometimes I see an overlap, but I am definitely the parent that they say to me at 9 o'clock at night on a hot summer night, do you want to go? I'm like, yes. let's go right now. I'll go get ice
Right.
cream with you always.
Being an East Coast girl, was it difficult for you? You know, the saying, talk to somebody and said, you can't take the girl out of East Coast or New York or anywhere, but can't take the East Coast out of the girl when they
Yeah,
moved west or elsewhere. Is that
it's
true?
super true. I am without a doubt at home on the East Coast. I move I I live at a speed that works well in New York City. And it's that hustle and bustle, and that is just my normal mode. And I one of my favorite things about being in New York is that everybody walks fast, everybody walks with a purpose, and nobody is lollygagging. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is my kind of city. People are going to get things done and be efficient. And so I think that kind of go, go, go mentality, yeah. And I've met many people over the years, like, are you from the East Coast? And I'm like, yeah, it's just a little bit. But I think, and it's most likely because both my parents are from the East Coast. So I was raised by two East Coasters. I had enough time back there that I have a love for it. And it's always been, I was this close to go back to for college, and I did apply. I applied to Syracuse because my older cousins went there. I did not tell my parents, but I'm like, I'm going to apply. I just want to go to New York. I just want to be on the East Coast. I should have been on the East Coast. And I got in, which was incredible.
Wow.
Except then I figured out how much money it was going to cost to go there. And of course, this was a very long time ago. And a plane ticket to come home from the East Coast was like $1,500. So my
Wow.
parents were like, are you moving there? Because you're not coming home if you're going to go to college there very often. And so it changed, but there's always been this piece of me. And I think over the years, I have definitely entertained this. Do I want to take a job back there? My best friend landed in DC and she's back there. So it's just, yeah, it's definitely, it's in your roots without a doubt. And I think it shows itself sometimes where I don't always fit in with the Californian way of life. I'm much more like how the East Coaster would look at it.
Would you, given an opportunity, would you move back or perhaps retire? You know,
I
when you
think
decide
retire,
to.
yes.
Okay.
My family is here. And my parents are, in their 70s. I want to be able to take care of them. They did
Okay.
everything for me. So when I don't have them, I think I would consider that. But then at that point, I also have my kids. And so
You don't know when they will.
I do joke with Aiden and with Abby. I'm like, you should explore schools on the East Coast because then maybe if my children like a school on the East Coast, I'll get back there a little bit more often and I'll get a little fix of it. And then maybe they'll land back there and I'll have less guilt about being on that coast. But my retirement is going to involve a lake, somewhere sitting on a lake. That's it. So East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country,
Perhaps
I'm
the
good
snow
as
as
long as
well.
I'm sitting on a lake. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you mentioned hustle and bustle. What's the sound of New York? So I hear the Friendly's ice cream is a flavor. What is the sound of New York, the East Coast, or the sound from your childhood?
I
Maybe
think
dad shoveling the snow off the or
I would
ice from the
say
hood of the car, something.
it's the train. I always heard the train. My dad took the train into the Boston every day. We would take the train from Boston to New York. And even when my dad came out here, he started riding BART. But to me, the T in Boston is like, and just running. So like when you're in New York and when you think about East Coast, everything is on the subway. And that's the only way that you're moving. And so that sound, that coming and going of the trains in the subway is just, and even to this day, if I'm someplace and we hear the trains going by, it just, yeah, it still very much reminds me. And the town that I grew up in was not right next to the tracks, but it was close enough that you would hear it. And just anywhere where I was, you'd hear it when you were at school, kind of hear it when you were at the shopping center. And so, yeah, that's just a sound for me. It's like the sound of the trains. So
What was a dream growing up?
it's interesting. My dream was connected to education. Like I wanted to be a teacher and I knew that. And I wanted to travel. The traveling thing it took me until college to realize that's a big piece of who I am, that I really want to see the world and that I'm very clear of the bubble that I live in. And that when you step outside that bubble, you can actually learn so much more. And so that piece of like just wanting to see the world, and it was always kind of intermixed in my childhood. So I knew that teaching was going to provide that what my brain and my heart wanted to do and spend my days doing. But there's a piece of me too that knew if you take on a job like teaching, I'm also going to have the ability to travel and to go see the world. Of course, I then moved into administration, which, that just went out the window because then I just lost all my weeks of vacation. But, there was a piece of that. Like, I will get to have both of those pieces in my life. And for the most part, I have a little bit more limited than I would like. It's not always as easy to travel, but that'll be a piece. It's been a dream since I was a kid. And my boyfriend and I now talk, like, we watch these stories of these couples that they give up their house and they go live on a cruise ship for a year and they
Well,
literally sail around the world.
it's amazing.
And I was like, I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. And I don't have to pack and unpack, which would be great. So, but that, something like that, and just like cut out of life for a year and just go do it and see the world, that's always been the dream. And I knew it would be later in life that I would do that, but I wanted something that was going to allow me to do that. And so teaching just kind of worked all around for multiple reasons.
Is it true to say when I hear you tell me and heard stories before, seem very goal oriented? Were you
Yeah.
like that when you were younger?
Yeah, I think I
In
was. I
school?
mean, I am definitely an A-type personality. I mean, more as I've gotten older and learned more about myself, but I did well with goals. And I also, my parents had expectations of me. I never felt like this horrible pressure that I was being forced into doing things that I didn't want to do, but there was an expectation. You're going to go to college, you're going to make something of yourself, and there was so much support coming to do these things, but there was never a question that that was an option. And that's what my path would be. And I knew at a really young age I wanted to teach. I was the kid who went to school with my mom, and that's a big piece of it. Educators, I am a big believer that educators are born. You cannot create them. And they get exposed in some way, and then that's kind of how they get put on the path. And for me, my exposure came with being in my mom's classroom. From as long as I can remember, I have memories very young when we were in Boston and going to the high school that she was working at. And it's weird memories. I remember a very dark, large gym, which now, being a high school principal, I'm like, I have that same memory, but very different now. But, I was always with my mom. I was always in the school setting. I watched interactions between her and other staff members. I watched interactions between her and students. And so from a very young age, like middle school, I mean, and my Barbies went to school. My dolls had a library with a checkout
They
system
were
in my
homeschooled by
bedroom.
you.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, they got a report card. I graded papers, the whole thing. And, look, when your mom's like office space is right next to your room too. And, all the stamps and all the teacher stuff is right there. I mean, whose mom comes home with, the clear transparencies and pens that you can write on from school? No one, but my mom did. So
It's cool.
that was my first exposure, but that started a goal. And the more I started to progress as a young adult, babysitting, working as a nanny, working in summer camps, I was always drawn to the same type of work. It was always like, well, I'm really good in working with kids. I was one of the cousins where it was like, well, Heather will watch the little ones, because I'm good. They would come to me and I was very happy to be with them. So I knew from that point on. So I was that kid who, if you asked me my freshman year in high school, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm like, I'm going to be a teacher. What I didn't know was that I wanted to be an administrator. I really thought I would be a long-time teacher. Like I was going to be like my mom and be in the classroom for 30 years and just have those experiences and grow with kids. Within about 2 years of being a teacher, I realized that I wanted to be an administrator.
We
I loved
pause
what I
for.
was doing.
I don't want to interrupt. Can we pause for so we'll
Yeah.
touch the principalship a little later?
Hmm.
But was there a moment being in mom's classroom or event that crystallized that idea, that the gut feeling or innate talent that this is what I want to do? Maybe a conversation with her colleague or handling in the classroom that rowdy or something like that, or it was just a whole experience like being a theater child, being
Yeah.
behind a curtain. There's no way you're going to
Right.
be a plumber or a dentist if you're
Right.
both
No, it's so
hands in the
true.
theater.
You know, I think it's two things. One, there's a specific event, but there was visiting my mom's classroom. I love the dynamic of her and her students. She was tough on some of them and she was mean. I mean, I I got a chance to teach with my mom for 4 years. We taught at the same school. My first, like my
What a
second
gift.
year. And my first day when they figured out who my mom, they're like, are you mean like she is? And I'm like, no. I said no, and I'm funnier, but I'm just as tough as she is. And they loved my mom, but they knew that she was tough on them. But it was the relationship that they had. It was a respect. She knew when to joke around with them. She knew when to be hard on them. She knew instinctually who was doing what they shouldn't be doing. And it was like that, your parents always say, I have eyes in the back of my head. And that was when I saw that it was true for my mom. And what I realized is it's not eyes in the back of your head, it's teacher instincts. It's knowing your kids that well, knowing your students, knowing their needs. You know exactly what's going to start taking place in the classroom. And I think I was so impressed with her for that and the way that she could kind of command the classroom. And yet the kids, like, they were genuinely learning from her. Like, I could see the light bulbs going off with what she was doing. And there was mixtures of making jokes, being tough on the kids, goofing around, but also celebrating the kids when they were struggling and they got it right and really making a big deal. Like, there were just all the components. And then there was an incident in her classroom, and I happened to be there, which usually when I was there, the kids were on really good behavior because I was Miss Reichert's daughter, right? Like, I was a special guest in the room. Like, I was entertainment. They always wanted to ask me questions, come sit next to us, type thing. But there was a kid that just could have cared less that I was there. She'd struggled with him. I knew the kid's name because I'd heard it at the dinner table at that point. And he gave her just a ration of crap in class and mouthed off to her. And I watched, like, the same mother that when I do that at home, I'm like, oh, she does do that at work, But she immediately put a stop to it. And it was this moment where you could tell he was this close to crossing the line where he was going to get kicked out. And he looked at her and she looked at him and she said, not with me. You know better than this. And he just sat down and he stopped. And he was disconnected.
Was it all she said?
All she said. So, and I waited till the end of class and I'm like, what was that about? What do you mean not with me? Like, I didn't know. I'm like, do you suspend him? She goes, I'm his safe space. He's coming because the teacher before here is awful. Starts with him every time. So he'll come into my class kind of all hot and a mess, and he'll want to take it on me because she's that safe space. And that was that moment where I realized my mom is a mom in that classroom too. And that kid needs my mom in ways that have nothing to do with her math instruction. And I knew my mom was capable of that kind of stuff, but I think that's where I realized the power of education. That as an educator, it's not just about reading, writing, science, and math. Sometimes you have to step in and be the adult in their life that is gonna make a difference for them. And what my mom did in that moment was reminding him, like, don't screw things up with me. You're not gonna get in trouble for what you just did. I know why you're upset. And sure enough, the next day, he didn't say that day, but he came in the next day and he sat with her at lunch and they went over the work and he apologized and everything else. And that's what he needed to do. But, like, it was the way she had commanded him. Like, she put him in, like, and in education, you got to be careful in moments like that. It's not just what the interaction with that one kid. You're also going to deal with potentially what the rest of the 33 kids in the classroom could potentially do in that moment, whether it's jumping in on what he's doing, whipping out a phone and recording you, and only a piece of it will get out. But she knew he needed firm, but he also needed love. And that's what that statement reminded him of, but also showed the rest of the class, you're not going to act like that in here. But you will also get the love that you need if you need it. And that, I think that sealed the deal. Like that.
Was this moment influential or affected your how you structure or set up dynamics with your kids when you were a teacher?
Yes, a lot. And
Model.
there was two. It was my mom, and it was actually my freshman and my senior English teacher, Mr. Borda, who was a teacher at Las Lomas. I modeled myself after him. He was by far one of the best instructors I've ever had to this day. And he built relationships with kids. And he had a classroom that was not built on bribery, you know, like you have to follow X, Y, and Z and rules. These are my discipline procedures. There was none of that in that room. It was built on mutual respect. I want to be able to teach you certain things. I'm going to give you certain freedoms to learn in a certain way. I will give you that freedom, but you've got to give me the respect when I need it. And that was the first time I'd really seen a teacher do that. Like, and I think it was also about high school and having some experience in high school. I recognize that is a style of teaching in that mode because you do want to give the kids more responsibility. But he did it by building a relationship with every kid in that class, by keeping the kids completely engaged in what they were learning. And he made sure that the like work he was giving us was relevant. And it when you to get engaging, you have to have kids, they have to relate to what they're learning. They have to be able to see themselves in something, whether you're reading Shakespeare or you're learning about World War II. You have to find that connection that the kids are going to understand what it is. And that is what he did. And so I think between him and my mom, that is the educator that I became. It was, I'm a little bit more on the rewarding kids because I like celebration. And I think one of my love languages in all sense of it is gift giving and is that celebration. Like I want to celebrate people. I want kids to see that it's not just about getting an A. Like if you were here all 5 days this week, and I know that's a big deal for you, like I want to be able to give that kid a little something to say, hey, I noticed that. Because I know sometimes those little things will make a huge difference to kids. But that doesn't matter what I taught, doesn't matter what grade level, that's how I ran my classroom. And my class was always filled with kids. My room was the one that was 18 kids in there at lunch every day. I don't think I ever ate in the teacher's lounge, ever, because I had kids. Or I'd go out and play with the kids at lunch, I mean, I'd have to go out there, they'd challenge me to dodgeball, and, I'm like, I'll take you down in dodgeball. I'm like, I can't throw things at you in class, but you want to let me throw things at you in the gym? No problem. Happy to do so. But yeah,
What qualities do you think are essential for a truly great teacher? Not nominal teacher, but a truly great teacher that kids love, admire, and respect.
I think a truly great teacher doesn't try to be the expert in the room. They recognize that kids have to come to things on their own, and you're a guide. And if you can get kids to think in the right way, they're going to land in all the places that you need them to land. But sometimes you have to just guide them to getting there on their own. Because the easier way for a teacher is to stand in front of the room. And I've seen some amazing teachers. They lecture, but they're engaging. And I'm like, I'll happily listen to you for an hour. But at the end of the day, it's not the students that are thinking in those moments. So a teacher like that might inspire them. It might cause them to think. But at the end of the day, they're not coming to things on their own. They're being told what to think. So I think when you look at what makes an incredible teacher, it's that teacher that guides the kids to the things they want them to learn, and also a bit of an acceptance of what they get to at the end place. Facts are facts. They have to know certain things. But the path to getting there is not necessarily the same for every student. And a good teacher differentiates instruction and has a variety of ways to express what they've learned or how they learn in a classroom. You're not going to just have one style. And because you got to reach every kid in the room. Not every kid wants to stand up and do a PowerPoint presentation. But that same kid could get super into it if you let him go like digitize and make his own movie about it. Or these two girls might want to create a podcast and share all of that information. When you give kids that freedom, I have watched it over and over again exceed a teacher's expectations. I've had it myself. And spending the last 2 years at high school, I realized that that's the most transferable skill that we can give them. Gone are the days that we have to teach kids everything in school to go into the workforce. There are still many careers that you need an education, you need to be educated. But I was lucky enough to be part of a fellowship at Stanford and for school principals. And I had a professor come in, and a business professor, and he was incredible. But what he said was, if a kid can't collaborate, that's going to be the downfall of them being able to be productive in the business world. So those executive functioning skills, learning how to work through conflict, learning how to be in a group, learning how to work with other people, learning how to delegate, learning how to find the strengths and weaknesses in your team to know how to grow together and to play off those strengths and weaknesses. Those are transferable skills. So the more we can give kids that kind of opportunity, with the academic stuff they need to learn, then they're going to be, that's how we truly prepare them. They're going to go to college and the classes are going to get harder. But the skills they're going to use the most are not necessarily the academic backing. It's who they are as a student and who are they in that room. Do they know how to use resources? Do they know how to use the tools? Like, do you have a way to study? And that skill, when teachers require kids to practice those skills, that to me makes a great teacher, because it's not just about the academics. You're shaping them as a human. And those are skills that absolutely can start to be like developed and honed in high school, and then even more developed when they're in college, and then they're ready for the business world. I joke with kids every year something lands in my office of two kids working in a group and it did not go well for whatever reason. And I joke with them, and I kind of giggle a little bit, but what I say to them is, do you know what group work is for? And they kind of laugh and look like, just to annoy us. I said, no, it's to prepare you for the workforce. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's no chance you're going to get through your entire life where you will work with someone. You're not going to work with every single person that you like. In fact, there's a good chance that a good majority of the people that you will work with, you will not enjoy working with. So it is a skill for you to know how to navigate that. It is a skill for you to know how to get along with people and work with people that you would never spend any time with outside of the workforce. So when I see opportunities for that show up in the classroom, where you're having to build on those academics, but also build in those executive functioning skills, that to me is a great teacher. And because they really see who they need to be successful.
I wish these skills are taught when you become a teacher, right? But part of education being becoming a teacher.
And
I hope they do. I don't know if they.
it is more and more. I will tell you, when I was going through, it was not. But there is a huge, I will say, if it started prior to COVID, but certainly post COVID, there is a very clear understanding in the education world that the social emotional learning, the executive functioning skills, knowing how to work with a person, as educators, we watched kids completely lose the ability to do this. 2 years behind a screen, they stopped knowing how to communicate. So it's a huge push in the education world that we have to work on these skills, because we have to honestly rebuild what they lost. But it wasn't when I first went through. It took a worldwide pandemic, I really think, to show the world how critical those skills are in the classroom too, and what you need to make sure kids have, because otherwise they can't be successful.
What was your first teaching experience like? Like maybe first day or first time you stepped foot in the door as a teacher, and you had second grade,
No, sixth grade.
sixth grade.
So I was a sixth grade core teacher.
Oh, you
So
were.
English and history, ancient cultures. My first day of school was incredible. The nerves. I must have been in my classroom for 3 weeks beforehand. I had paper on every wall. I had little I had it all. And I was so excited. I had some great partner teachers, and so I was so nervous. And I stood and I greeted them all on that first day of school, and I did kind of a fun activity, and I think I had like a perma smile glued on my face, like it to the point where my face hurt at the end of the day. But the last period of the day, and I'll never forget this, Linus Merwin. If Linus is out there somewhere, I would love to find him. Linus goes, I think she's going to be cool. And I heard him on the way out the door. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. Now, if I could find any of my kids from that year, I would apologize to all of them and be like, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I taught you
What for?
absolutely nothing. I
Okay.
think I learned more that year than anything I taught all of you, because talk about teaching, you can student teach, you can go get your credential. It is learning by fire. That is how it works. It is, you learn how to teach when you're a teacher. And that first year was great. It just made me love it more. The biggest mistake I made was teaching summer school that year. Yeah, that was a bad idea. You need that break. There's a reason that teachers have that time off in the summer. It's so we don't kill children. And then we come back and then we love them again all over in the fall.
I understand you became a principal at a fairly young age. Was it intentional, or what was it a happenstance?
No, it was intentional.
And when did you realize that
Around my
you
fourth
want to
year,
move towards
my second and
STEM?
third year, I had an incredible assistant principal at my school. His name was Frank. And again, going back to that, like building relationships with kids to fully understand them, Frank did this. And Frank was this assistant principal. And by my third year there, I had a little bit of a reputation that I worked well with some of the tougher kids. So as you can imagine, I worked a lot with the assistant principal because if I have the kids who were in trouble quite a bit, they didn't get in trouble in my class, but like I built a good relationship. And that was really the first time I saw how you can have a little bit more of a global reach when you're an administrator and you have the ability to kind of serve all of the kids in the building, not just the ones in your class. And what I saw Frank do is not only build relationships, but I saw Frank create programs based on the kids' needs. So if we had a group of boys who was running around like lunatics during lunchtime, he started like a basketball tournament. And he would be out there with them all the time. And he would go and he would sign them up. It wasn't go get them in trouble. It wasn't like, I'm going to go call your parents or I'm going to be yelling at you. It was, I'm going to figure you out a little bit and I'm going to find things for you to do so you don't get in trouble. And I had such an appreciation for that because I had a real understanding by year 3 of teaching, like what happens outside of school can have a very serious effect inside school. And when kids are having, like, they're getting it from teacher after teacher, or they're getting in trouble at home and then they get in trouble at school, by the time they're sitting in my class at 7th period, they're bouncing off walls. And so Frank, he was like a really great coach. I sat in his office quite a bit and we just talked about kids. And it was really when I saw he also had the ability to build relationships with kids and be present for them all 3 years they were there. So you'd get this 6th grader who would come in like the Tasmanian devil, but Frank would build a relationship. And that trust would be there. And that trust would then spread to the teachers, because if that first line of defense in the office wasn't shutting you down and was sending you back, but sending you back with like tools and help, sometimes defending you when you deserve to be defended, and that said a lot. And there was a lot of cards on Frank's wall saying thank you. And a lot of them, I used to read them, and they were from kids 5, 6, 7 years since they'd been in his building. And that kind of made me realize, like, yeah, I want to do that. And Frank, I had already started to realize the kids that come in with a little extra and need a little extra are the ones that I tend to work well with, because I can see that quickly. So I saw that Frank was able to get to them and also provide resources for them that I couldn't do as a teacher. And I think that piece kind of filled me as a human. But I also was very clear that I can't be an administrator until I've been a teacher for a really long time. There's no way that I can go in and tell somebody how to do their job or be an expert in their job if I haven't done their job for a considerable amount of time. So I put a timeline on myself of 10 years. I said, I'm not even going to go get my credential. I want to be in the classroom for at least 10 years.
You took 10 years.
I did 10
Okay.
years. And on my 11th year, that's when I entered the admin program.
I thought 2 years, and then you move into becoming.
No, I taught for 10 years. Yeah. And then I have officially, actually I taught for 11. By the time I was done with my credential, my last year of teaching, I was in a kind of a teacher on special assignment. I was coordinating a program. So I wasn't teaching full time anymore. I was gotten into like coordinating an independent study program.
10 years
I was in my admin program. Yeah. So that kind of got me into the realm of admin work. And then I jumped in at middle school and I was an assistant principal for 4 years. And then I was a principal for 8 at that same school. So my past school was there for 11 years. And then the last 2 years had been at Las Lomas. So I moved up to high school, and now I'm about to take on elementary, which
Right.
I think that was the move I was supposed to make.
Different,
Like, I
totally
started
different.
in middle and I went up and took on more work. As I've now realized, it's the trip you want to go down a little bit, and you still kind of get the reward and satisfaction of the work, but you do get your nights and weekends back, which I'm very excited about.
It's very important.
It
Balance.
is. It is.
What qualities did you have to develop as a principal? You have this innate ability overall, but it's a lot of more interaction
Yeah.
with colleagues, and leading the staff, and leading, communicate to parents as a teacher, but not as maybe whole communities. So
I think, I kind of got eased into it and then saw it in full blast. But, you don't get to be friends with your staff when you're an administrator. And so I lost something of my work people were my friends. Like, my work people were in my wedding, my work people like came to parties and everything else. When you become an administrator, you're always the boss. At the end of the day, they always look at you as you are somebody who is technically my superior. And that was really hard for me because I'm a friendly person. And, if you and I are basically the same age and we have kids that are the same age, like, why wouldn't we be friends? But at the end of the day, because I'm still the boss. And I didn't feel that as I felt it a little bit as an assistant principal, but I really felt it when I was a principal. And then by the time I came to Las Lomas, it was very lonely. And because I think when I was at my former site, because I'd been there for 11 years, I just had friends at that point. I mean, like, you work with somebody for that long, like,
definitely.
and there were certain people that even some of the newer people that I hired as principal, but those that I was friends with as an assistant principal maintained throughout my principalship, right? But it was just a little different. Like, the invitations didn't come as often. And at the end of the day, I also couldn't attend a lot of the stuff. I can't go to the happy hour because I have to go to another meeting at the district office or whatever. So there was a piece of like having to disconnect that my work world was going to like fill me as a human in that sense. And so you have to disconnect from that. And you have to also be prepared that people are going to talk about you all the time. Like, I live in a glass cage basically, and I'm never going to make everybody happy. I'm never, for every decision I make, somebody will disagree with it. And somebody may want to be very vocal about it and feel that because I'm the principal, they have a right to say these things, and definitely not to me. So you have to just accept that's going to happen. Like, okay, and hold your head high and not, and allow yourself to kind of disconnect. And I think that's the piece that 13 years doing this job, I have a clear understanding of that. Doesn't make it any easier, but I understand it. And I would say it's just developing a thick skin. People will yell at me first. I've been yelled at because of other kids. I've been screamed at because of teachers. I've been screamed at because of, employees that work in like, they will call me and immediately start yelling. And people also feel very justified sometimes to skip every other person and just come straight to me, and then get very angry when I'm not even familiar with what's going on. It's like, so there's a real, the number one thing that people say to me when they find out what I do, especially educators, oh, I would never want to do your job. Like, that is the most common thing that
Educators.
educators, teachers will tell me all the time, oh, I would never do that job. Cal State East Bay used to send out an email every year. Anybody interested in joining the admin program? So every year I would send this email out to my staff. I'm like, if anybody is interested, let me know. I'm like, we can go, I'll take you out for a drink. I'll give you, we can talk about it. I'll happy to answer any questions. And I can't tell you how many people would write back, let's totally get a drink because that would be fun, but I do not want to learn about being an admin. We love you, just don't leave, type thing. And
did anybody take you up on the offer in terms, not the drink, but
yes, I have
somebody?
one teacher that I mentored, and she was actually a mentee as a teacher, and she is currently the assistant principal in Walnut Creek. So
Okay.
so I mentored her through that, the whole piece. And I have another student that, she used to babysit for me, then went to college, and now she's also an administrator. So I've worked with people getting into the field, but most teachers, it isn't their big desire to jump in. And it's a lot of extra work, and sometimes you're just doing the stuff that nobody else wants to do. But I also have the ability to do things that nobody else can do. And I have the ability to empower students and empower teachers and, connect the dots for kids to be able to better understand. And to me, that's worth it. And I find like my joy from work now comes with my success in my job, right? If the students in the building are happy and thriving, then I know that I'm helping to make that happen. And that's where I take my pride. And, I've definitely learned to be closer to the administrators that I work with versus the teachers, which is sad. And I don't particularly love that. But again, it's like just the acceptance of, and it's not anything you also have to accept it's not about me. It has nothing to do with me as a human. It's just how it works in schools. And schools, the gossipiness of all of that does not change. Like what it was like as a student is also what it's like as an adult. It's a breeding ground for that kind of stuff.
It's the
So
same. Some people never leave
yeah,
junior high,
exactly. Exactly.
so it's
So
true.
that was probably my biggest. The workload doesn't bother me. I have a lot of energy, and I like doing these things. Like it's part of something that like I take pride in what I'm doing. But, there's definitely days where you go home, you're like, oh my God, I'm like working my butt off. And this is what you're complaining about? Like, really? This is what you want me to spend my time on? I have all these other things I can do, but you want, oh, okay. All right. That's what we're going to do. Right. And the answer is yes. That's what I'm going to do.
That's really interesting. Who and or what would you lean in the moments like that when you're a real person and you're trying your hardest, but you can't make anybody happy. You realize that. But who is your support, or what do you lean on? Maybe what do you tell yourself, or maybe you support your friends, or maybe your mom, or some mentors that you have, and
Yeah.
then
You know,
pick
I
you up,
think,
uplift you.
and I talk to my mom, a lot. I think it's a tough thing. I definitely have like colleagues and I have friends like outside of the district. And so that's typically my network because it's like I need to talk to somebody who's going to understand what I'm going through, but at the same time isn't directly connected to the people I'm working with. So I can have the freedom to just say what I want to say. I've been in three different school systems and I have seen the same thing every single time. It is not a trustworthy environment. Like it's just not. There's so many moving pieces at all times and things can become very personal even when they're not. And so I've seen over and over again where it's the navigating the relationships and all those kinds of things. So I find the space outside is my safest space because then I get good advice. I get good advice because the perspective is outside of my building. It makes me think differently, and in those moments, that's what you need. I think what I found is if I go sometimes even just like one of my assistant principals, we're both seeing the same thing and we're going to stay locked in there. Versus when I talk to a colleague outside, it becomes say what you got to say and say it to me, however you need to say it, but also like, let me help you with a solution. Or yeah, I had somebody like that in my building and this is what we did. Or have you talked to HR or whatever? Like you're going to get the level of support that I need, but also I can, bitch about what I need to say because I can't say it to anybody else in my building. And that's the piece of it.
That's a vital
Yeah.
to have that kind of support.
Right.
I know you are greatly admired and respected by the kids, which is the most important. I think that would be my greatest accomplishment as an educator. But I know you are, and I wanted to see. It seems like it's your innate talent, but maybe you disagree and say it's also hard work. So, is it innate talent, or you had to work on it? And I'm sure their kids or parents would see the same in your prior school careers.
Yeah. I mean, that's my wheelhouse. Like I do pretty good with kids. I mean, I have a fuse too. I mean, there have definitely been kids over the years that I'm like, you need to get out of my office right now. Like I cannot deal with you at all right now. And, but for the most part, I try to get to know kids and I can be tough but I also I think I do have a spidey sense, as I joke. Like I can read kids pretty well. I've done this long enough to know when they're totally full of it and lying. And so I think that's the innate part. I'm like, I can smell a kid lying to me like nobody's business. And I have a standard line that I will say to kids, and it works 95% of the time. But the work part comes with it's the time. I'm a principal that I don't care. I'll keep a kid in my office for an hour. If a kid needs me for an hour, if that's what it's going to take for me to break through to this kid to get them to understand what's going on, then they're going to get my time. Because sometimes that's what that child needs more than anything. And I've also found that even in my role as principal, look, there's authority that comes with that. And I believe that if kids see the principal as somebody they can talk to, somebody they can joke around with, somebody that will have fun with them, somebody who's going to understand them. And a lot of times it's understanding you're a kid and you make mistakes and that's what you're supposed to do. But I need to teach you how to not make that mistake again. And that's where the work comes. And I think over the years, I can tell you I've had secretaries who will literally just try to like interrupt me in the process of this. Like and teachers will struggle. Well, why are they with Heather for so long? Why are they so connected to her? And it's because I'm taking the time, because somebody isn't taking the time in their life and isn't giving them what they need. And that's why they're acting the way they are. And so sometimes I learn how to listen. I also am not afraid to share about myself with the kids. So, and I think especially with like the seniors and my kids these last 2 years that are older, I learned very quickly, I am not going to stop them from doing certain things. Like, and there was an acceptance in that. But if they respect me, then they'll also listen to me in those moments where I can give them advice that will, in those moments, they will think of. Or I will get them to maybe revisit a conversation that we had in the hall. And even if it started as something, I mean, I can tell you that I had a group of students who like to start, questions with Ms. Thorner, what if? Everything was a what if. And they want to know, what if we did this? What if we did this? And I'm like, what if you didn't? And I'm like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Let me explain the why. And what I've seen many times in that situation is administrators will shut kids down. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. You're breaking the law. I will explain to the why. One of them, I give you an example, was drinking. And the kids are like, well, what's the big deal? And I'm like, because you're a minor. And if you come here and you're intoxicated and I know about it and you willingly get in the car, number one, no offense, I don't want to go to jail for you. Number two, like, you're putting other people in a position to know you're unsafe, and then they're not doing anything about it. And this is a building filled with mandated reporters. So if you show up here and you put yourself in that situation, it's not teachers being mean to you. It's not teachers like trying to get you in trouble. It's you are doing something that is literally unsafe for you to do. And by law, they are not allowed to let you do it. You have to recognize that's why they're doing and they're like, wait, you get in trouble? I'm like, yeah. I said, if there was any proof, let's say you showed up at a football game and I knew you were drunk and I let you go home and get behind the wheel of a car and you went and killed somebody, they'd come back to me. Somebody would have been like, oh yeah, the principal knew that they were drunk. And eventually it would come back to me. Absolutely. I am responsible for you. And I don't know that anybody ever explained that to them. And so in their mind, it's just, teachers and everybody being hard. Oh, what's the big deal? We're teenagers. That's what every kid does. And it's like, you're not being smart. You're not being smart about it. If this is something you really want to do, then be smart and be safe. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get in trouble. Because if you come here, it's a guarantee. It's a forced hand. I have no choice. I can think you're the greatest kid in the world. If I know you're drunk, I have to do something about it. And you don't understand when you sign your contract. I said, I'm literally signing that I will do that. It's not just getting fired. It's like I could get into major legal repercussions. And there was so much respect after that conversation. Never once did they come to the place where I ever thought they were intoxicated. But on top of that, what I heard from them afterwards was nobody's ever explained the why. Mm. And that's what I tend to do for kids. I explain the why. Let me explain to you why that's going to happen. And so whether it's why you shouldn't drink or why you can't tell, when I have two girls in my room, you can't send 18 text messages back and forth to each other saying horrible things and not expect them to be shown to 25 other people. Like sometimes it's just giving them the why. This is why this is happening. And sometimes that's just what they just need to understand, that what's happening to them, they don't have to like it. It doesn't have to feel good. They don't have to agree with it, but they understand why. And kids are curious and kids want to know. And if you take the time to explain things to them, 9 times out of 10, if they understand the why behind it, they won't argue with it so much. But this generation, I can tell you, does not like thee because I said so. Like, that worked in our generation.
I wish all
It
the
does not work in this generation
I
at all.
wish all the educators
Yeah.
take after you. What's your biggest strength? I think you touched on that, but I see
I
if
think
you
just doing
just
right by kids.
point.
I'm kid-centered. I literally will do anything I can to make something happen if it's what's best for kids. I will think it's crazy outside of the box. Okay, sure, let's try it. Let's work it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But to me, that's my strength. I am just student focused. And as I was transitioning a job this year, I knew I didn't want to do high school anymore. And I really went, okay, it's time for me to go to the district office. I've been a principal long enough. And I had opportunities, as you know, and I couldn't do it. I just, I need, what I take in my job is seeing the kids, is watching them learn, watching them complete something they've never been able to do, making that, building a new relationship, solving a friend issue. Like when you have a piece of that, like I'm fueled as a human. Like I don't know how well I do sitting behind a desk at a district office, like looking at data and charts and graphs. Like I have a bad day, I walk outside and I interact with students. One of them's going to make me smile. And now I'm going to elementary where, I mean, they're just going to hug me all the time. So, and, think I'm great. I can have like my little baby goats in the window and they'll think it's fantastic. So that fuels me as a human. So it's easy for me to do it in my job. I
Fair
guess.
enough.
Yeah.
What's your take on the effect of AI on education generally today? Are we gonna have some robots as teachers and robots as kids?
Um, I don't think so.
What's a positive, I guess, and maybe not
A
so
positive, I'm going to tell you,
Is there any positive?
work harder or work smarter, not harder, in all
Okay.
honesty. When we have to teach kids how to use AI, but we also have to teach kids how to have original thought. And AI is here whether we like it or not. So the longer you try to like avoid it, run them through AI checkers, here's like, I'm on TikTok. I accepted this is where the children are. If I need to understand them, I'm there. And now I have my own adult version of it. But I can tell you, I have seen so many TikTok videos from college professors, college students, and they're using AI in smart ways. This girl is, I was watching this whole, it's an app. They're all, half of them are ads, but it's recording a lecture. And then when it records the lecture, it then makes note cards, creates quizzes,
Wow.
creates outlines, and then will run the kid through study guides. And I'm thinking to myself, there is something to be said for handwriting things. And if you get into the whole learning pyramid and how kids learn, simply writing things down is a way that they are going to remember what it is that they're learning. So you don't want to get away from that completely. But if you can start to tap into new ways that our kids learn, they will learn faster on a computer than they will writing it down, because this is how this generation grew up. So you have to teach them how to use it, teach them how to harness it, and you have to teach them the importance of original thought, but also the dangers around AI. First of all, if you're using it in high school, the message should be, we know when you're doing it. You don't write like this. And so it's just very easily detected by any kind of an educator. So you're going to see it being very kind of like monitored in this sense, because kids are using it to cheat. That said, well, maybe you shouldn't do assignments where kids can use AI to cheat. It's a different type of teaching. So stop creating things that they can use. The biggest one are the essays. And I've seen so many things, and I was working with a teacher this past year on how to do this lesson. I said, give them the essay prompt, tell them to go to AI and say, write an essay with this. And I said, then tell them they have to rewrite it, putting it in all their own words,
Oh, that's a
their own
great
notes,
idea.
their own
Wow.
quotes, and everything else. and say, you can't have anything that this says, but you plug it in. And listen, I use AI all the time. Like, it makes things efficient. I have taken, sets of data, dumped it into Chat GPT and said, make me I need a bar graph and a pie chart with this. Boom, instantly it's done. That would take me 2 hours on Excel. I don't have 2 hours. That's the thing. It takes me 2 hours on Excel because I don't have a 40-minute period where I could sit down, take the data, put it in the chart, and not get interrupted at all. So if I have something like AI, this is here to stay. This is going to be up on every desktop. But AI is going to take some jobs, but it's not going to be able to, it's also going to create others. And it's going to create a need. And we've already seen that in this generation of kids can go to college and get a degree in and by the time they get into the industry, it's completely changed.
Or
And
God.
yeah, and you're seeing tons more professional development that's coming. Companies have to revamp how they're doing things. I don't think that's any different from any of the other. I mean, if you look back, Industrial Revolution, this is what it does. But we have to teach them how to use it. And we also have to teach them how to be critical of what it is and to fact check AI. And when I use AI, I'm using it as my starting point. Like, it's because I have the skills, so I can go, okay, give me this. But then it's my skill that allows me
What you need.
to make it what it needs to be. AI wouldn't be able to do that. And so that's where I think we have to go as educators, is finding the activities where the kids are going to, yeah, AI is there. Go use it for what you need to. But you can't use it for everything because it isn't going to give you everything that you need. It will not do a perfect job. And they have to know that. So it's harnessing this power. And I don't think we're there yet. I think educators are more scared of it than anything else. And what I'm seeing at schools is teachers going away from the computer. Okay, that's fine, but we're just going to have them handwrite something. Okay. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it needs to be about that communication. It's, can they verbally express themselves? Do they have a point? Can they back it up? Can they give a counter argument to things? Those are all skills they're still going to have to do, and AI won't do it for them. Like, they have to be able to think, but it's tapping into those critical thinking skills. And it's going to be educators having to change how they do things. And there are many educators who are excited about it and want to teach kids. And there's a big chunk that absolutely doesn't, like, wants to revert back, and they don't get, you're not reverting back. There is no going back. It's not going to happen. Like, you can't. And at the end of the day, you can try to take it away. The kids know it exists. That's it. They'll use it when they're not around you.
How do we channel it to
Yeah.
be useful? The other thing I was that similar SAT.
Yeah.
Is there any way a lot of colleges cancel them? I don't know, this COVID thing. I don't know if they're coming back. Some didn't. Do you think SAT, first of all, have any weight on kids' IQ and EQ?
No.
What do they measure? What is there a reason why not all colleges cancel them and the kids need to stress with AI? Like, what are your take on it?
It's going to come back. It's already coming back. So during my time at Stanford is actually when this was happening, and they were getting rid of the SAT. And it was actually a study at Stanford that they did, and they proved that the SAT does not correlate at all to success in college. There's no correlation. And the SAT is written by Pearson, which is a major conglomerate. They have a total hold on public education. This is where the lobbyists are. This is where this is everything that is wrong with education is coming from Pearson, is coming from, the people that put on the SAT. All of these testing companies are the ones who are championing the government. They want all this stuff. This is a moneymaker for them. They want the government to require these kinds of things, to have state standards so they can have these tests, because this is their moneymaker. And it's writing textbooks and everything else. So the issue is they created a test that does not in any way indicate whether or not a kid is going to be successful in college. But the other side of the coin is there's nothing out there that will. And there's no universal system that you're measuring every single student on the same track. When you go to Europe, and I know kids are going in after high school, they're taking boards basically. And you take the tests and it will determine which track you are on, wherever you are. So you could be the richest, smartest, greatest kid. And if you don't do well on that test, you are not going to medical school. Now you can try again, right? But we have nothing like that in our country where we have a standard test that will then determine these things for everybody. Because there's a lot more choice of, like, anybody can be anything they want, which I love. And I think that's how it should be. But at the same time, there is no way to measure the kids, because a kid's education in Boston is not the same as a kid's education in California. California is like the 45th state we are the 6th largest economy in the world. And we are something like 44th or 45th in ranking in education.
That's
And it's
mind
very
boggling.
simple.
I can't digest that, to be
There's
honest.
so many, that's a whole, that's a, that's
I mean,
that
it's
would be
public
a
educated
podcast.
versus.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Well, and our governor sends his kid to private school, so what do we expect? Like, but Boston, which is a state this big compared to California, we spend on average about $11,000 per student in the state of California. They spend about 30. Like, it's
Is that the funding? Is
funding,
the issue the funding only,
funding.
you think?
Yes,
Okay.
funding. It's all funding. Every problem in schools is funding. Everything comes down to funding because we don't have enough. If schools had everything they needed to simply meet the need of every student in their building,
Okay.
you would have no issues. You could eliminate crime. But we don't fund education properly. So education lives in the land of robbing Peter to pay Paul. What program are we going to fund right now? Because this is the problem of the moment. And then, look at that, no more money, that goes away. And now we're going to fund this other problem. And we're going to keep, and so but these problems don't go away.
It has been like that for a long, long time, as far as my kids went
Yes.
to elementary school.
Yes. And it's just, we never have enough. And when you live in, my new district, where I'm going back in the areas that I've been working in, you're dealing with a lot of federal dollars. This is Title I at its best. I can tell you that my new school has a brand new building. I have English language learner specialists. I have a reading specialist. I have 2 social emotional counselors in the building. I have a family services assistant in our building. None of that exists in an affluent area because none of that can be funded. And a district like Akalani's is funded on the back of their parents. Property taxes, they take the property taxes, they receive very little funding from the state. So that means that they are completely dependent on their parent population and the community for funding everything in the schools because they don't have what they need. And, the buildings in a very affluent community are dilapidated because there's no funding for that anymore. And we have robbed the public education system so dramatically that it will never be successful. Like, we're set up to fail because we never have what we need, because we don't have educators making decisions. We have politicians making decisions. I mean, we have a man he just took apart the Department of Education, and his whole reason for doing it, well, I want to give the power back to the states. The states should make that decision. That goes right back to your question.
Do the state have
No.
power?
And that's the exact issue. What the states are doing is not the same. So you can't, like something like the SAT, we have no federal education like minimum standard, basically. So there isn't anything leveling the playing field. And the reason that the Department of Education was created in the 80s in the first place was because states like places like Alabama and Mississippi were not educating students of color. They were taking Black kids and just putting them in special ed classes and not actually providing any services. They were not serving students who had mental disabilities or English language learners. It was nope. And we don't have to think about anything like that. And there were such huge discrepancies for kids who had genuine needs, who needed to be served through the schools, and they were falling through the cracks up, down, left, right, and center, because you have these politicians in states where they don't put value on education because they need a poor community. They need an uneducated. Who do you think is going to work on the farms, work in the areas that they need to have? And that's why we had a federal Department of Education, because the states weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were taking money and not putting it towards education, even though they were mandated by federal law to do so. And because they had too much control. So that's when you saw the federal government come in and put the control in. And that's when you saw special ed, English language learners, students of color. That's where you finally started to see where the playing field was being leveled and kids who really needed to get service get it. And it's I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, he's going to do a lot of damage. I know that. I don't I don't know what all the things I don't know what's coming, and I don't know how long it will take to potentially reverse whatever damage he's doing, if we'll ever be able to. I mean, it's scary. Like, it's a very scary
Already
time.
damaged school system and damaging
Yes.
it further.
It's very broken as it is. And if you, like a state like Texas, Texas is such a perfect example. If you go to Texas, you will see some of the most gorgeous schools you've ever seen. Like, when I was there, I'm like, facilities that looked,
Yeah.
I mean, middle schools had full blown football stadiums. I mean, it's just insane. The sports complexes, the, theaters that they have, but they're literally removing books out of the classroom. They want the Bible to be read. They don't want to talk about LGBTQ at all. Like, they don't want students to even be able to be themselves there. Like, and scary. And what they're, wanting to silence teachers for not being able to support a student. They want, I mean, Florida's trying to put a law on the books that if a student reveals that they are LGBTQ, like, a teacher would have to tell a parent. I mean, there's crazy things that systems will put in, and teachers can't do anything about it. And those things scare me about public education and what we're going to deal with. I'm starting a new job tomorrow, and I'm very, like, I'm nervous about a conversation that my district is going to have of, what am I doing if ICE shows up? I'm going to be in a 75% Spanish speaking community. This is where they're going to come. And what is our plan for that? And I have to also be able to tell my families that school is no longer a safe space. This was something that was never allowed to be in a school before, and now is. And this is where going back to what you said about AI, and then about the SAT, all of these things are connected to, like, what's happening with our government. And I think when you saw a more liberal, kind of side of the coin being in office, it's where you started to see a lot of, obviously the DEI work, but also college loan forgiveness, more opportunities for kids to be able to go to school, opening up the doors to really letting everybody try to make something of themselves. And all of that is starting to close. And so, yes, I do think they're going to try the privatizing education. They will absolutely try to do more online schools, quick programs, get kids through. A lot of that is AI behind it, where you don't have an instructor. Kids are doing independent study. Yeah, I could see some of that stuff coming in. And COVID was an interesting changer. I think it, at first, really showed families just how much educators are doing. But the longer it went on, it caused anger with families. And they were like, well, I'm basically doing it for my kid, and he's just doing everything online now. Why does he even need to go to school? I can tell you, I dealt with that at Las Almas. They have Canvas. We're going to take off for 3 weeks. They'll do their work online. It's like, no, we need you in the classroom. Like, you need to be here and interacting. A couple of days here and there is never a big deal, but that's been a struggle, is even just families accepting coming back. A lot of community colleges are struggling to get kids to take classes in person. They just want to sit at home and take them online because it's easier. And that's what worries me, because that's where you'll see that automation. Because professors like to be at home too. So that, that does work a little bit in there.
Yeah, but I think COVID, we struggled with,
Yeah.
we lost some teaching kids communication skill and
Yep.
dealing
Yeah.
collaborative skill and dealing with each other. That's
I
we have a big gap in it. I believe that
it's
with the media, I don't
Yes.
think I notice that kids or younger people are afraid to pick up the phone and make a
Yes.
phone call versus.
Oh, it was I remember being at a football game this past year, and there was a new version of Fortnite that came out, right? So this was like a thing, and I get it, it's a game. We're at a football game on a Friday night. And as the game ends, we won, it was a great game. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going out for parties. They're going to, Rudgear Park was going to be a zoo. I'm not driving anywhere near there. And I'm like, are you guys going out? Be safe. That's always my thing. Be safe. Please don't drive. Like, that's always my comment with them. And they're like, oh, don't worry. We're all going home. I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, we're all going to get on Fortnite. And I'm like, so you're all going to go home and get online to talk to each other from your house? And they're like, yep. I'm like, it Okay. And listen, I have no doubt they were up till 3 o'clock in the morning, all laughing and joking and having fun. But for them,
Communicating with each other, but
they are communicating with each other, sometimes in ways that I'm like, what did I just hear? But it is, but that's so different. Like we didn't have that, number one, but it was like if you spend time with your friends, it was in person. You were either friend was at your house, you were at their house, you were out someplace together. I mean, we used to run around the neighborhood till 9 o'clock at night. When it was dark, we went home. That was it. But
I was
their
actually,
generation.
yeah, I was actually really surprised when, like, end of the season for football or sports, pizza, whatever party, kids actually don't have their phones. They actually sit at benches and long table and talk to each other. And we
I know.
all look parent at each other. It's like, this is a true, we should capture this moment because it doesn't happen
Right?
very often. They were actually, for the past couple of years, they were actually talking and laughing and eating and not showing the phone. And I'm like, it's anomaly now. It's
It
not.
is. It's
So
interesting because
my
seeing the
hope is
sport.
they can communicate with peers
I
and
think it is, but the sports world is a real beautiful thing, and I think it's why like such a supporter of it, especially at the high school level, because it's an environment where it really supports that. You have to be a team. You're not going to be a team by texting each other. You're going to be a team by communicating with each other, by spending time with each other, by having interactions with each other. And that is an environment where kids will automatically put down the phone. It doesn't matter what sport it is. That is a place where nobody does a sport with their phone in their hands.
they
So when
phone in
kids
the
are
pool
engaged
playing water
in,
polo.
right, you're not, so it forces, it's not forcing it, it's just they don't have that many environments anymore where they don't have their phone with them. So the sports field is one of them. And so if you have a kid who's an athlete, they're getting a regular amount of time interacting with their peers without a phone in their hand. And I know with my son, that's been huge for me, is it just puts that stupid thing down every once in a while. And it can control their lives. And that also scares me. But at the same time, mine's never far from me. I mean, I feel like sometimes I'm just as bad as
The
they are.
same, true.
So it's hard
Very,
for me to get mad at them for it but it's just, I had the experiences growing up without it. And I think I just want them to have that too.
yeah.
But they're connected to them. I mean, I learned real quick, even as a parent, fastest thing I have to do, if I take away that phone, anything is miraculously going to change. So it's like to get it back.
What parenting advice can you give parents to raise the kids this day and age, in terms of, education? What parents can give aside from buying them the latest model of Apple phone with great AI? What else we can give or parents can give to their kids to succeed?
I would say time and patience. The
Okay.
best thing you can do with a kid is keep asking questions. They're not going to want to answer them. You're going to get one word answers. But when you talk with your kid, it does mean something when they come home and every day, how was school today? I always say try to be specific when you're asking questions. What'd you do in chemistry today? Like, did you finish your project or are you still working on this? I would say a lot of times they don't even want to talk about school. You can even just say, like, do you have what's going on? Like, you're going to the game this weekend? Like, it's just simply wanting to be in their life, but also be present. Don't miss their games. Go to the games, go to the activities. They will not want you anywhere there. Like, they may completely ignore you at the beginning. I can tell you, my son, I'm not allowed to talk to him during a game, but I always get a head nod. And so he finds me, I get a head nod. I know that we do not discuss anything with the game until we were in the car, but he doesn't like it when I'm not there at the end of the game. And when I'm not there, I get a text, "Are you coming?" And he may ignore me the entire time, but he wanted me there.
The
And
presence that
your presence, and you're never going to hear it. They're never going to say, "I want you to come." You're going to get the, "I don't care, come if you want." They want you there. So be there. And talk to them. And also recognize that they're going to make mistakes. They are going to do really stupid things. They are so afraid of coming to you as a parent that they're going to get in trouble. And so that first time that they make a big mistake, that moment, especially in high school, is going to shape how you go through high school with them. And pick your battles as a parent. I think if there's anything, like, pick your battles. Not everything has to be a battle. And you know what? There are crappy teachers out there. And there are teachers out there that don't put grades into the system very quickly. It's okay to believe your kid. It's okay to advocate for your kid. It's also okay to hold your kid accountable and know when they're totally and completely full of it. Like, but if you spend time with your kid, if you go to the games, you will also know when they're full of it. I mean, that's those two things. They make each other easy if you do both, and let them do everything.
That's a great advice. Not just quantity of quality, but a quantity of time means
Yeah,
and listening to your kids and believing, standing by your
quiet in
kids,
the car.
full
That's the other
support,
thing.
but yet holding
Always go on a
accountable.
drive and be quiet in the car and listen. You will learn more about your children in those moments, and let them listen to their music and let them say things. And if they swear or whatever, let it go and listen, because you will learn about your child in that moment. Like, and you'll see your kid in ways you don't get to see them. And you just don't, like, you're in those. So just take those opportunities. Don't miss them. Even if it means, like, you're driving 2 hours to someplace you do not want to be, it's worth it. Like, that time with your kid in the car, and it means the world to them. They're just not going to tell you that. They tell me. I would hear that.
Maybe they'll tell you later,
They will.
later
I
in
do
life,
think they'll tell you later. Yeah. I'm
probably.
still waiting because I'm in it too. So I haven't reached that point to be an expert, but I know that they say it to me. And I know that it means something when they're there. And I know that the kids look up and they look for them. They look for their parents. They want to see them, even though they try to push you away. And it's that's also normal. Like, I think so many parents, like, worry, like, but my kid, but they're not telling me. Yeah, that's what they do. They're going to push boundaries and they're going to do stupid things and make
Tell
mistakes.
their friends faster
Yep,
than they tell their parents, unless you're
exactly. Oh
open
yeah.
to listen to them.
And that's the thing. They're also going to hide a lot from you. Gone are the days where they're going to tell you everything, and you have to accept that. And it's hard. I deal with that as mom. I mean, I think the number one thing, Abby, honey, can you not right now? The number one thing that I tell parents is, this job does not make me a better parent. It is just as hard for me to parent my kids and to be a parent as it is for any other person in fact, I think sometimes my job makes it worse because I have too much information. Like, I am always assuming it's way worse than it is because I've dealt with some other crazy situation. So my brain has gone to, like, point Z, when really whatever happened with my kid is like point B, but it didn't matter, but I went right there. So I know my kids have definitely, many, many times, as I have one standing here, would be like, my mom is nuts. And she's like, she goes crazy. Why does she think everything is going to happen? That's not even that big of a deal. Right. But it's because I've had enough experiences that I just know too much. And so,
Just few last questions, just few questions that hopefully maybe we can short. I know we're. How do you measure success? What's your measure of success? Might not be
um,
short answer, but
I mean, success for me is different. I think it's, and what
personal.
am I doing?
I mean,
Right.
personal success.
I think personal success for me, I don't know that I'm ever like, that's a tough one for me because I think I work really hard. I'm probably a lot harder on myself than I should be. And I very rarely meet my own expectations. If, like, I set a high bar for myself. So I think I have a tendency sometimes to, even when something went really well, I will still find a flaw in there. And that's the type A, and, like, the constant wanting to do it better. But I think success for me comes when I've been able to help somebody reach a goal. So, like, last year, working with a couple of kids on a huge project, and, that they had started with me at the beginning of the year. And then it was just chunks of time that we worked on and we built towards things. And at the end, that moment of success was when I was watching the kid and I was going, wow. Like, and it was very sweet because he thanked me in kind of a closing moment. Like, not a lot of principals would spend this kind of time with their kid, with a student, to help them understand the way that she did. But, like, that was the moment when I get a kid who hands me a card that says, like, thank you. Like, you didn't even know you did something for me. It's like those little moments. That's my success. I got through to somebody. The one thing that I have kept throughout my whole career is thank you notes, because it's a lost art. People do not write these. I don't write them as often as I should. I always try to say thank you, and I always try to like reach out to somebody afterwards. But at the same time, like sitting down with a piece of paper and a pen and writing a note to someone is such, it just takes an extra step that a lot of times people are not willing to take. So for me, if somebody sat down and wrote a nice card, like I save every one of those because it does mean something to me. And that says that I was successful because I made a difference to somebody. Whatever it is that I did, I made a difference in that person's life. So that tells me that I was successful.
Do you have an
And
advice
I
for
did so
somebody
many big things.
who just fail at something and I mean, I find that they find it failure. What? How to process that? What is the maybe easiest way to
I mean,
let go?
self-reflection, I think is kind of key. I'm a I think I follow the same thing that I will tell kids, which is you're going to make mistakes. You're human. You can't avoid them. Like no one is perfect. No one, and if somebody thinks they're perfect, that's actually where their mistake is because they're not allowing themselves to be flawed. So I try to give myself kind of that same grace. But what I've always said to kids is, but the thing about a mistake is you have to learn from it. Because if you don't learn from the mistake that you made, then you're going to go back and you're going to make that same mistake. So I've had plenty of failures over the years, things that did not work. But the biggest thing for me is, okay, but what did I learn from that? And what did I take out of that situation to know not to do that again? And either I'm going to be a better person because of whatever happened, or I've walked out of a situation where I learned something. And sometimes it's learning things about myself, like, yeah, I need to shut up more, or I need to like watch my face. Like I've made a mistake, I've done something, right? So it's like it could be something that simple. It could also be, something like, if I'm ever going to do that project again, I really want to get more information at this phase. Like, and that's where I will tend to be very reflective. And I want to nail down like, where is the failure? What was the failure? What was the mistake? Why do I feel it was a failure? And so I try to understand that so I can learn from it. It is not always the best because it goes back to being too hard on myself, I think sometimes, and not wanting to give myself a little bit of grace for just being a human. And, but as long as I will get over any kind of failure eventually, just knowing that, okay. And I have also found with most failures, I have come out ahead after them. They've led me to a better place. Not in the moment, but I can reflect back and go, yeah, but if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am right now, or I wouldn't have this in my life. So I try to really focus on that piece.
With that, what would advice would you give your 20-year-old self today, or from being you today to your 20-year-old self?
Slow down.
Cool. Slow
Just slow
down.
down. Enjoy it more. Like I think I had this, I mean, I am a Gen X all the way, and I lived in the I'm supposed to do this, right? There's this I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to go to college. I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have children. I'm supposed to have a career. I'm supposed to do something. And so I was always very fueled with, but I'm supposed to do this. And it was always this my eye on a prize of like I'm always working towards something. Slow down. Enjoy life more. You don't have to get there that fast. And I say that in all honesty because if I could go back and do anything again, I don't think I would have jumped to admin as fast as I could. I think another 5 years in the classroom, I could have still gotten to the place where I wanted to be. I would have had more time with my daughter because I had Aiden, but I had Abby when, she was 1. I was an admin. And so like if I could go back, it's just slow down. You don't have to get there that fast. You have a lot of life to live. Enjoy your 20s, enjoy even your 30s. You don't have to make it to the level. And yeah, I was a young principal, but I didn't need to be. So I think that
What
would be
brings
my
you
advice.
joy? Well, what brings you joy? True joy. Who brings you joy? Maybe what brings you joy? Heather.
Um, I
What
mean,
is?
I will say it's the place that I am the happiest is on the water, like floating in a lake, in a kayak, or sitting in a floaty toy in anywhere. I am at peace. There is something that the water is very calming. So what brings me joy is being able to travel, is sitting on a beach 7,000 miles away and just recognizing that the world is, I don't even need to be a part of that right now. I can just enjoy. And so I look forward to those moments. But then on the daily, it's laughing, just finding the funny moments, you know? I mean, whether it's my kids, I'm very sarcastic, and my kids know that, but then they kind of like throw it back at me now, and it's just kind of fun.
Oh,
But and as they get older, I will do more things with them. I mean, she's sitting in the other room, but like, you know, I'm enjoying my children and seeing them in different ways, and it's bringing me joy, not because I created the joy for them, but like my daughter Abby was in a play. This is the first time she's ever done a production. I must have recorded 90% of it and watched a good chunk of it because I was just seeing her in such a different light, seeing what she was capable of. See, I know she has these passions. It's just not a part of the world that I get to be a
being
part of.
alive
And then,
through her
right.
brings you
And
joy. Okay,
so
I
there
can
was
relate.
just so much joy. And I get that same joy when Aiden's like catching or he's pitching. I mean, I get the joy after he's pitched. While he's doing it, I'm like a nervous wreck and half a step away from shaking because I'm like nervous for him. But then when he's done and he had a great, and he's so proud, that brings me joy. Like, I mean, even when he came home, like after a couple of history tests and math tests, and he was like, it was beeline in the door, like showing me grades. And like, it wasn't the grade, it was that he was that excited to tell me and to
Mm,
come, like he was proud and he wanted me to be proud of him. Like, that brings me joy. Like, it's little things. And I also have someone in my life who brings me a whole lot of joy, and he's my balance outside of the world, and I get to be me with him, and there's just no stress. And that that has been very different in my life, and I thank my lucky stars for that one every day. So it's
last
simple.
three
I don't
questions.
think I think joy has to come in the little moments, because you don't get the big moments very often, but you do get the little ones if you look for them, especially.
And if you capture them and you truly
Yep,
look for them and enjoy and appreciate them. Last
exactly.
three questions. Heather, are you enough?
Am I what?
Are you enough
Am I enough?
for yourself? I mean,
No, because I think I still have growth. I have things about myself that, not I don't like about myself, things I want to improve. It's different.
so
It's not, it's like I want to evolve as a human to a certain degree. So am I enough? Like, I don't know if you can ever be enough. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be truly filled, but I would also, if I stopped wanting to be filled, that would concern me more. So, but am I enough do I give enough to my family? Yeah. I mean, I think I consider myself a successful person, but I still have a lot that I want to work on. Like, I think that's just, yeah, I don't believe in perfection, I guess. Like, yeah, I always don't settle. Like, I always want more.
great. No, I love this answer. If you had a magic wand or a time machine, where would you like to go now? Then you
Oh,
can any place, any event in your life, meet anybody. Just where would you want to be, like right this moment? Aside from the water, I know somewhere in the water, perhaps
yes,
with a floaty or a kayak, but
true.
maybe
You
somewhere
know,
else.
I wish I could spend more time with my grandparents. I
Okay.
lost them when I was younger, and being a parent now, seeing how much I'm like my mom, Abby is like me, Aiden is like me. There's like, I have so many questions about my parents. If that sounds like, it's because it's like through having kids, I've understood more about myself, which has made me understand more about my mom. But it's also given me this curiosity to like know my parents more, because I see them differently now. Like, I relate to them in a different way. My Nana, who Abby is named after, my Nana was a lot of me. and I lost her when I was 10. And I realized through my mom and through some stories that like I think she was my person. Like my I am the most like her. And I would love to like I would love to spend more time with her as an adult to like see that, because my mom talks about her a lot. And she was like a power woman, she was, I mean, she owned her own business in the 1950s. They had owned a food brokerage company with her sister. And that was like abnormal. Women didn't own businesses. Women didn't like run the show. And she wore the pants in the family. I love my papa, but he was a traveling furniture salesman. So he was gone a lot. And she's like, I'm not sitting at home. I'm bored. So she started a business. Like
Um,
my mom, I love my mom, and we are definitely similar. But like my Nana, I think is like a lot of where I come from. And like, I wish I could have known her as an adult. So if you could say like, you could go back, I would go back to where I could like, but I would want to be an adult, but go back to when I could spend more time with her and learn her more. I also think I'd understand myself, like to a certain degree. I don't know why I'm all teary, but she's
no, thank you for sharing. No,
my
this,
grandparents were both
I didn't
my,
mean to make you cry or anything, and
yeah,
just
no, it's okay.
I
But
appreciate you sharing that. I had I was
she's,
fortunate to grow up with grandmother, so I know exactly what
I did. And my dad's
it's a
mom,
blessing.
yes.
The last question I have: what
Okay.
do you find extraordinary in every day?
I think what I find extraordinary is the joy in the little things. Like you can take a big expensive vacation and it can be incredible. But what's extraordinary is somebody showing up when you need a friend and giving you a hug in that exact moment, and it solves every problem that you just had. Like that's extraordinary. Little moments that make you feel so good. And I don't think they're planned. I think it's the ones that are the moments that you're not expecting are what bring extraordinary things to your life that you just don't expect. But and there's I want to like there's so many places that I want to see and things that I have seen that I mean, I learned how to scuba dive so I could see what it was like underwater. That was extraordinary to be able to do something like that and to connect in that way. But it wasn't learning how to scuba dive. It was the moment that I was underwater and a turtle swam next to me. And I'm just under 60 feet underwater, and an animal that I love just went right by me, and I just got to swim with them. And it was a 30-second moment in my life that to this day, like, still gives me chills, and I would just want to replicate it again. And so it's just the little moments that come, I think, more than anything. So
Heather, thank you very much for
this has been fun.
sharing
I've
your
never done
tips.
anything like this before,
Yeah, I
so
think we can talk for
hours.
more
I could talk to you
hours
for
and
hours.
hours, but I
Yes.
thank you for being here and hope
Oh, anytime.
to up soon.
Yeah. Mel, I mean, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.